Welcome back. My next guest says the State Department built a more agile IT culture that positioned it well for the massive disruption COVID presented. Will that culture stick? Let's find out. Stuart McGuigan's the Chief Information Officer at the State Department. Stuart, welcome. Thanks for coming back on the program. What security challenges have you run into as you've moved employees all around the world to off-premises remote work environments?
It's been a fascinating journey. We are very much a face-to-face culture, and we went from teleworking being the sort of exception to it being not only the norm, but over 90% of our workforce was teleworking at our peak. And so what we did from a security perspective is we had to go back to first principles. What are we actually trying to accomplish with our security policies and practices, and revisit the security objectives and then reframe them in a way that allowed us to support this massive telework. So the right access, the right information to the right kind of information sensitivity wherever you are, and including things like the ability to do massive video conferencing. So it really actually helped us sharpen our security policy and SOPs because we had to really look at things from the basics again.
Reshaping and revisiting what you did, what did you have to do? What action did you have to take as a result of that?
So we had the good fortune in calendar year 2019 to get support from leadership to move massively from the cloud. I think we were a little bit of a laggard in the federal government in moving to cloud and things like Office 365. So we had tremendous support last year to move everybody, really every employee was given access to cloud resources. And we did things like centralized support. We did things like centralized identity and access management. And then we rigorously enforce things like two-factor authentication for remote access. And so by doing all these things, we put ourselves in a better position to support the COVID massive teleworking. We didn't know this was coming, of course, but we had timing is everything. So we found ourselves in a pretty good position to be able to support the department's needs at this time.
What I think is encouraging about all of that, Stuart, is it sounds like everything that you just laid out there was something that you could go and acquire, and you knew what it was you were going to acquire. It's not like you found yourself in a situation as the government has found itself historically, which is we don't know what we need, first of all, or we don't know how to get it, so we're going to have to find somebody to create it. Doesn't sound like anything that you needed to meet these challenges was something that had to be created. You just had to go buy it.
Oh, we had to go buy it and we had to configure it. So the other thing we learned during this process is that we're actually an agile organization. And because of the crisis and the need to get people back to work, we didn't spend a lot of time debating what agile was, what the ceremonies are, and how we're going to implement it. What we did is we quickly developed a backlog of all the things we needed to fix or change to enable people to get access to the systems they needed to do their work from home. And then we reprioritized that backlog virtually every day, delivered new capabilities every day, look backwards. We didn't call it a sprint retrospective, but that's essentially what we're doing. What did we do? What didn't work? And all the emotion was taken out of it because of the sense of urgency that we had. So we found that we could deliver capabilities on practically a daily basis, securely, safely, iteratively. And I think if there's something that was stunning to the entire Department of State, it was the speed at which the combination of people in Washington and people at our embassies and posts all over the world were able to deliver new capabilities to get people back to work.
So what does that mean then for the content of your IT strategy, your modernization strategy, Stuart, and what does it mean for kind of the spirit of it? What does it mean for what is possible conceptually information technology-wise for the department moving forward?
So one of the things that I think is going to be a very healthy byproduct of this very challenging time is that because our employees throughout the world had to suddenly work from their homes, and you can imagine the conditions that people work in all over the world, the nature of the telecom capabilities within countries. I mean, every variety you can think of, you can find somewhere in the world. And then they had to figure out ways to collaborate, communicate, and advance our mission in diplomacy around the world. And it was like being immersed in a country. I mean, you can take language courses and you can learn how to order off of a menu. And you can make progress if you take lessons. But if you get dropped into that country, you learn very quickly how to function. And we found that was the way with the collaborative tools like Microsoft Teams. Suddenly, we went from very few users of this capability to thousands and thousands of people registered and hundreds of teams operating in these collaborative environments. And now they know how to do that. So our way of operating, our way of pulling people together to form the best possible team to solve a particular problem now transcends geography, time zones, and we're emerging from this a really technically enabled, fully collaborative department.
What are the differences and the similarities, Stuart, in providing cybersecurity tools and providing a secure work environment to the diplomatic community, to a national security community, as opposed to a more traditional civilian community or private sector organization like you used to work for?
So, I've had the benefit of working for multinational organizations, but so some of the challenges are in fact similar. But with the Department of State, we have to be ready to support every possible working condition. Countries with very poor bandwidth. So the move to the cloud has to be adjusted to be able to enable us to run local workloads, because you just don't have the bandwidth to support a full software as a service implementation, for example. But on top of that, our diplomats have to be able to communicate with their interlocutors in the host country in whatever tools and technologies those people use. So we have to be incredibly flexible, incredibly adaptive, while at the same time making sure that our security posture is sufficient to protect the data and assets of the department. So variability is the norm. And it's very clear that any IT strategy that tries to impose one solution, one size fits all, is not going to work. Now, we don't want 285 different solutions, one for every post, but we're going to have a handful of solutions. And that's actually healthy. It fosters competition among our technology partners. It enables us to make the best fit decision for the situation that we're supporting, and really keeps us customer focused rather than technology focused.
At some point in time, Stuart, and I'm not wishing this on you anytime soon, but at some point in time you'll have a successor. And I wonder what you'll tell that successor is different about the way that the IT operation at the State Department runs post-COVID as compared to February of this year. What do you think among the changes that you've made is going to stick? And in particular, how do you get that agile mindset to stick so that that's the way that your organization runs forever?
I have a high degree of confidence that we are an agile organization now. And even if I left tomorrow, God forbid, we would still be agile. It actually suits our culture better than big waterfall projects. If you think about diplomacy, you have an emerging situation in a country, you put together a task force to be able to work on that problem. You get all different kinds of expertise in the room. You develop a response, and then you disband until the next situation emerges. So we didn't call it agile, but we're more agile in our culture than not. So I have a high degree of confidence that we'll persist in using agile development and deployment to add value. If I look at my colleagues, most of the people that I work with in leadership and throughout the department, they're veterans of the department. They've been here 5, 10, 20, sometimes even 30 years. And so, we didn't swap out the team for a bunch of agile developers from Silicon Valley. We're working with the team that we have. We just developed our processes to fit within our culture and the way we think about solving problems. So I have a high degree of confidence that this approach will persist.
And it strikes me the other cultural element there, Stuart, is that they now know they have the permission, they have the encouragement from leadership like you, Secretary Pompeo and others, to do that. You've kind of changed the expectations as much as changed the processes and procedures. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. The secretary early in his tenure talked about restoring the swagger of the State Department. And I think maybe it took us a little longer than the diplomats, but I think the people at IRM have a modest swagger today because of what we've accomplished. I take advantage of the fact that all of our posts and embassies are conducting staff meetings using video conferencing. So I do my equivalent of Zoom bombing their staff meetings, and I've met with maybe 20 different country teams in the past few weeks, and I can tell the esprit de corps, the confidence, is just tremendous right now. So I think that'll persist as well. Our efforts are recognized. People are aware of what the IRM team has done, and I think we have a very new level of confidence in our ability to deliver on the important enablement for the missions of the Department of State.
We have about a minute left, Stuart. I wonder if there is some kind of unintended benefit or silver lining that you see. I'm struck by the number of people who use the word opportunity about the response to the pandemic. Is there something that you see coming out of this? Maybe it's just that attitude and that change of expectations, but is there something that's good that's coming out of this that you can put your finger on, Stuart?
I think so. I mean, we're a very decentralized organization by design, and that's important to allow different bureaus to be able to respond quickly to emerging situations. But I think one of the things that's come out of this is by acting collectively and developing the right kinds of enterprise capabilities, we can advantage each bureau individually. So it's not a trade-off, centralized or decentralized. It's using the leverage and scale of the department as a whole to provide individual bureaus and posts and regions with tools that they otherwise couldn't get access to on their own. So everything we do, we look at, is it better? Is it faster? Is it less expensive? Is it more cost effective? Because we're doing things together than you could do on your own. And I think we've really proven that with taking the right use cases, that is really the way we need to move in the future.
Stuart McGuigan, the Chief Information Officer at the Department of State. It's great to have you on the program. Thank you very much. Preventing supply chain disruptions will be critical for national security organizations as they navigate this pandemic. It's a topic we'll hear time and time again this week. Up next, how the Maritime Administration stayed on schedule and why it thinks the fleet needs to expand. More NATSEC 2020 presented by ServiceNow right after this.